I'm so excited to introduce our closing keynote for the day. We have
David.
Yes, it's David Duffett.
Hello there. How are you all doing?
David Duffett.
Well, that's really good to see everybody.
Very good to have you here. This session is called Your Story, Your Advantage, Turning Experience into Opportunity. David and I had a prep session on this, and I can already tell you I'm excited for this session. So this is our final session of the day. I can't wait to close it out with this. So take it away, David. Thank you, Ron and Tom. And there we go, into our final session.
Yeah, well, thank you, Courtney. And I want to say a big thank you to everybody else that's been participating as well, not only presenting, but getting on in the chat as well. And just to pick up on a point that Tom and Ron were talking about, I think Ron called it a kudos file, and Tom talked about when he needs a little bit of a boost and he can go and look at recommendations and things that people have given him and things that he's achieved. And I just want to link that with LinkedIn and tie it into LinkedIn recommendations. They are great things to have, and of course they're on your record all the time, and so be thinking about that all the time, so that, for instance, if you go the extra mile for your AE and they shoot you a little email and say, David, you know, thanks so much for kind of staying on late this evening, or whatever it is, then say, well, listen, thank you, could you do me a quick LinkedIn recommendation, please? And I've found that's very, very powerful if you catch people when they're very grateful because you've gone the extra mile. And I've actually been very surprised at all the nice things that people have said as well when they do LinkedIn recommendations. And of course, on top of that, you should be giving LinkedIn recommendations as well. It's not all about receiving them, but if you can give them as well, that's a great thing. Okay, now I'm going to get my screen share going here. Courtney, I would like to ask if you're going to be staying on and monitoring the chat for me and the questions, please.
I am happy to do that. Yes,
that's brilliant.
I'll get here in the background, David.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so let me just check. Are people seeing my screen with the Your Story, Your Advantage part?
Yes, but we see all of the files on your
oh, okay,
as well.
Okay, how about that?
Perfect.
Great. Okay. In fact, let me just fetch this thing right over here so I can see a little bit of you as well. So what I'd like to talk to you about as we close this event and kind of sum up all of the value and the different things that have been shared is about turning your experience into your opportunity and doing it in a way, as has already been discussed, that doesn't sound too braggy. One of the things that people really don't like is when you've got a bit of eye trouble. In other words, you're talking about I all the time, and instead of treating things differently and talking perhaps about the value you can add and an experience you've got. So here's what we're going to do. I would like to help you identify your value, but very importantly, I want to also help you make your value relevant. So when you're in an interview situation or when you're in a work situation and you're looking to make progress, how can you make your value relevant? And then presenting your value, how to actually get it out there. How does that sound? Give me a yes in the chat if you're up for all of that, please. And Courtney, hold on, I'm going to have to get a chat window open here so I can see what's going on in that as well. Okay.
People are ready. People are ready.
Right. Great. Okay. All right. Look, brilliant. People are saying yes. Okay. Let's jump in then. Now, before we jump into those three things, I do want to just at the outset talk about why it's so important to be effective communicators. You see, us technical people do have a little bit of a reputation for not being the world's best communicators. And maybe it's deserved, but we need to show people that we are great communicators. We need to show people that maybe we're the unicorn they didn't think existed, that we're technically competent, but our technical brilliance is also equaled by our captivating communication and our presentational prowess. And that's important for you to find your next job. Once you're in a position, team cohesion relies on great communication, helping others to buy, of course. Notice I didn't say sell there. I prefer to think about helping others to buy the right solution rather than selling. So you could be helping your colleagues to buy your ideas, or of course you could be facing your clients with products and services and helping them to buy. And of course, the ultimate goal that we all look to achieve in whatever relationship we're in is the trusted advisor. And so that's another reason why having amazing communication abilities is so important. Now, just a bit of background about me. I like Jags. As they say in the States, Jaguar. We just call them Jags over here, or Jaguars. I've been in technical training and conference speaking for 20 odd years. These days, I do perhaps more conference speaking than training. I also MC conferences and moderate panels and things like that. I run communication masterclasses inside companies and actually do personal coaching on this kind of subject as well. I want to really reinforce with you that action is the key. It's great coming on a Career Navigator Summit like this, but if you just kind of make a few notes and put them on the shelf, I think some people call it shelf development rather than self-development, because you take the notes, you're excited, but then you just put it back on the shelf. If that's all you do, that's no good. You've got to take action. Action really is the key. So if you want exceptional results, you must take exceptional action. You must do what other people sometimes fail to do. You don't need me to tell you that buying a gym membership will not make you fit. You need to actually get down the gym and pump those irons or do the exercises or whatever it is to actually get fit. And here's the attitude I would like you to adopt, or rather the one I don't want you to adopt. Please don't look at this closing keynote and go, yeah, but this doesn't really apply to me. This is, I can see what you're saying, but it's not for me. Much rather have this this approach. Yeah, how can I apply what I'm learning here at the Career Navigator Summit? How can I take that and apply that to my situation and make some progress in life? Now, if you do that, I need to warn you that your career could really rocket. Whether you're hunting for a job right now, whether you're in a job looking to make progress, if you take some of the action that we're going to talk about in this session and follow through, well, the sky's the limit, really. Now, here's the problem that we're all facing. When we think about people's communication skills and we think about how excellent their communication skills might be, it goes without saying that for every single pre-sales, solution engineer, tech salesperson, solution architect, all of them, if we were to look at them and analyze them, then statistically, most of those people are going to be about average. And that's why we need to take the exceptional action. Down at the bottom end, you can see I've got the initials BCP. And if you're wondering what BCP means, it stands for buttock clenchingly poor. These are communications that are so poor, they make you wriggle around in your seat if you're on the Zoom call, or if you're face-to-face, might be even worse. So buttock clenchingly poor communications is what we're looking to avoid. Up at the other end, we've got SOG, or standing ovation great. This is if it was a presentation mode of communication, you'd be jumping up off your seat and wanting to give the person that was presenting a standing ovation. If it's a meeting, you'd want to be standing up and giving them a little bit of a rah at the end of it all. So that's at the other end of the spectrum. As I said, sadly, most people are about average. That's just statistically true. We can't argue with it. What we need to do is make sure that we're not in that bottom half. And here's the sad fact that most technical people are in that bottom half. And that's a little bit of a problem. And by the way, I've heard it mentioned already on this summit, the word introvert. Now, I believe that there are lots of technical people out there who may well be introverts. However, if you found your way into a pre-sales or solutions architect job, or you're looking to do that, the chances are you're not an introvert, because if you were, you'd want to keep coding or keep doing the technical stuff you were doing. You wouldn't want to find your way into a customer-facing role. No, my belief is that technical people have invested a lot in their technicalities. They've invested in exercising their technical muscle by going to college or university. Then they've got into work and done some more exercising of their technical muscle. Then they've joined some user groups or done product updates at work and again exercise their technical muscle. this has been at the expense of exercising their communication skills muscle. And so when I see technical people in pre-sales, in solutions engineering, I see people that have got a very big muscle on this side and perhaps need more of a muscle on this side as well to balance it out. Now, we're going to get to the meat, but I want to talk to you about your reticular activating system first. Has anybody ever heard of the reticular activating system? Pop a yes or a no in the chat so I can see whether people have. We've got a no, got a few yeses and some no's. Great. Well, I just want to highlight what that is. The reticular activation system or activating system is all about helping you filter in and out all of the things that come to you every day. And what it tries to do is filter in the most important things and filter out the least important things. And this is the basis of goal setting. If you set goals and you read your goals every day, you're putting them near the top of your list for your reticular activating system. Perhaps the easiest way to describe it is when you get yourself a new car. It doesn't have to be brand new, it could be a used car. But when you get yourself a new car, especially if it's a model you've never had before, as you're driving around, you tend to notice that there's all these other cars like yours on the road that you never noticed before. Now, is there really more of them than there used to be? No, there's the same amount that there always was, but you're actually seeing them because your reticular activating system is tuned in. And I had this with Jags. So I'm always on the lookout for Jags when I'm driving around. Recently, I bought the Jag that's in the picture there, and it was not my first choice of colour. It had the spec I wanted, but I'm not really a big white car fan. Anyway, ever since I've bought it, I've noticed all the other white cars. So my reticular activating system has been tuned to white cars rather than Jag specifically. The reason I mention this is if you pay attention now to what's coming, it's going to end up near the top of your reticular activating system to progress your career, and that will occur naturally. Now, here's the great news for you. This is wonderful news for every single person on this call. You are all standing on your own mountain of value. Every single one of you. I don't really mind whether you're brand new to pre-sales, whether you're a 30-year veteran or somewhere in between. All of you, every single individual one, yes, you are standing on your individual mountain of value. That is the great news, okay? But here's the not so great news. It's actually difficult to identify your own value, your own mountain of value when you're standing on it. Imagine standing on top of a physical mountain like the person in this chat GPT generated picture I've got on the screen. Imagine you're on that mountain, you can look across and see everybody else's mountain. You can see Ron's mountain of value. You can see Courtney's mountain of value. You can see Tom's mountain of value. You can see Chris Mabry's mountain of value. But it's quite difficult because when you look down, you can't really see the size of your mountain of value. You might be able to get a rough idea of the height of your mountain as you look across, but you can't really unpack it and see everything that's in there. Is anybody resonating with this? If you're resonating, give us a yes or a I resonate in the chat. Courtney's jumped in there like a rat up a drain pipe. Thank you, Courtney. Great stuff. Okay, good. Yeah, this is important. We're all standing on a mountain of value, but it's difficult to see our own mountain. And so, while I totally agree with everything that's been said about trying to catalogue and highlight your value, it's actually difficult to see it because you're too close to it. You're on top of it. And so what I'd like to share here is that you need to have some help. You need to see yourself and your own mountain of value through the eyes of others. Now, the first thing I want to say is going through this process can be uncomfortable. If you've ever listened to yourself on an old-fashioned tape recorder or an audio recording on your phone, you've probably thought, oh, do I really sound like that? And the answer is yes, you do sound like that. When you hear yourself speaking, your bone structure, your nasal cavity, various different things affect the way you hear yourself. When you listen to a recording, that really is you. That's the way that everybody else hears you. And so it can feel a bit uncomfortable. Maybe you feel a bit vulnerable doing this, but it's important to go through the process of actually seeking feedback from other people. It's necessary for your growth. And of course, it's a team sport. Because if you've got people that you can talk to, you can say, listen, I'm thinking of going for a new job, or I'd like to go for a promotion in due course. Can you help me identify some of my areas of value? You could even share with them that concept of the mountain of value. And you could say, look, Billy or Mary, I see yours, and I'd like to help you identify some of the makeup of that mountain of value. Could you do the same for me? So it could be a mutual thing. So the other thing that comes from it is you might know some of the value that you have, but there may be some value that's been hidden from you for whatever reason. You've got a bit of a blind spot to it. And by going through this process with other people, it will reveal things you didn't even know. In fact, let me see if I can pop something into the chat for you. Yes, I've just popped a chat GPT prompt into the chat for you that I was recently given for my birthday. It's my birthday last Friday, and somebody on LinkedIn gave me this prompt. It was actually in the German language, so I had to translate it into English. But since I do use ChatGPT, I was able to use that prompt. It says, based on all the interactions or all of our interactions, what's one thing you can tell me about me that I didn't know about myself? It says, debate, be critical, use the de Bono hats. Now, I'd never heard of the de Bono hats. I'd heard of Edward de Bono, the lateral thinker, but I hadn't heard of all his hats. Turns out he's got 6. Anyway, there is a little prompt for you, and it was I found it very insightful what it told me. Thank you, Cliff, by the way. Yes, it's often easier to hear someone else tell you about your strengths. You're quite right, Cliff, and we're actually going to come on to that a bit soon. Right, let's carry on over here. Now, when you think about your mountain of value, as I said, let me try it again. Hold on, I know why. Wait a minute. I'm putting it back in the chat now. It was going to hosts and panelists, not everybody. Right, everybody should see that chat now. It starts off with happy birthday. You can disregard that part, unless it's your birthday, of course. But if you take the prompt that starts after the prompt bit, based on all of our interactions, take that prompt, pop it into ChatGPT, and see what ChatGPT tells you about you. Now, I want you to now pop into the chat the kind of places where your value can come from. So if you'd like to pop it in, I'll give you a couple of starters. It could be achievements in your current role. It could be volunteering work that you do. It could be all manner of things. But throw a few things in the chat. Where do you think your value, not your values, but your value as a person, the things that you can bring to a role, where do these things come from? Pop a few in the chat for me, please. Being a parent, yeah, I love it, Miriam. We learn a lot about parent. Yeah, empathy and trust, quite right. Traveling, yeah, cultural sensibility and looking at the way other people do things, and of course the practicalities of travel. Yeah, networking, for sure. That's a good one, Miriam. Hobby or a vocation, yeah, you're quite right, Cliff. You're exactly right. Killer dad jokes. Okay, we all like those, Rob. We all like those. Okay, I've got a few here. I'm just going to pop them. I'm going to populate my mountain of value here. These are not specific to me. I only put a little picture of me on top because I recently had a professional photo taken. I thought it looked quite good, and I just wanted to figure at the top of the mountain. So we've got to identify these different pieces of value that we have and collate them. And as I said, it's going to be helpful to have other people help us. Now, who are these other people that could help us? Well, people like friends and family could help us. Co-workers could help us. Bosses, previous co-workers, all of these could help identify your different value. However, and there is a however, it's one thing to know the different pieces of value that you can bring to a given position, to a given role, but it's another thing, knowing how relevant they are going to be to the job that you would like. I see a love of whiskey popping up in the chat. Thank you, Cliff. Yeah, it's a different thing to ensure that the values that you talk about, the parts of the value that you have, are relevant to the role that you're going for, the promotion that you're looking for, the new job, or whatever it might be. And so, as has already been highlighted on this summit several times, you really need to do some homework. You need to research the situation and circumstances in order to pick out the most relevant parts of your value, to communicate those to the people that you need to as part of the selection process. Maybe that's an agent in the first place. Maybe it's the hiring manager or the HR people when you get a bit further down the process. But it's important to do this step. You can't miss out this step. Otherwise, you run the risk of telling people all about your values, the different pieces of value that you have, when some of them might not be relevant. And I would liken this actually to presentations that technical people tend to make. In technical circles, we often say, yeah, Cliff knows his stuff, or Mary, she's really switched on about this technology. And it tends in technical circles all to be about knowing your stuff. However, knowing your stuff is not enough. It's actually the ability to communicate just the relevant part of your stuff, not all your stuff. There's lots of technical people like to do. They like to get it all out there. No, it's just the relevant part of your stuff. And it's exactly the same in a recruitment situation. You only really want to be talking about the relevant parts of your mountain of value that you have. So do the homework, because it will really help you to shine. It will be, in fact, Ron just mentioned it in the closing part of the session with Ron and Tom, about how somebody who he was talking to and interviewing had really done their research on him as the hiring person. Now, I'm not going to fill in this matrix for you, but this is something that's worth taking a screenshot of. It's worth writing down. And it doesn't have to be these things on the vertical and the horizontal axes of this matrix. I just put these in to give you ideas. But across the top are 4 attributes or 4 strengths that I identified as being required in a LinkedIn job advert. So I typed in pre-sales to LinkedIn, went to the very first job that popped up, looked at the things it said we need. And it said, you know, you have to be good at relationship building, a great communicator, a great team worker, and results focused. Obviously, there would be some domain experience I expect in there. Although, personally, I very much advocate the hire for attitude, train for skills maxim. You know, I'd much rather have somebody with the right attitude. I can train in the technical stuff later. It's getting the right attitude. Anyway, so that's across the top. Relationship building, great communicator, team worker, and results focused. Then down the left-hand side, you can see I've just picked 3 things from the mountain of value: volunteering, hobbies, and recent work. And the idea would be to fill in that matrix with how the volunteering that you've done makes you a great team worker, or how the hobbies you've got encourage you to be results focused, or how in your most recent job, perhaps the one you're doing right now, you can show that relationship building has been a key strength of yours. In other words, fill in this matrix so that in your mind, in your reticular activating system, you become familiar with how the different key strengths that you have, the value that you have, works in to different things that recruiters are looking for, or recruiting managers or hiring managers are looking for, and then only speak about the relevant ones. Now, here's a bonus for you. One of the things that's been discussed is trying not to look too braggy. If you went through that previous exercise of talking about the mountain of value with your co-workers, your friends, they've told you rather than you dreaming it up yourself. And so you're able to say things like, well, in the volunteering I did for the Girl Scouts, you know, one of my volunteers told me this about me. You know, said I was a great communicator, or applauded the fact that I was results focused, or whatever it is. In other words, you've got different people speaking rather than just you saying, I am results orientated or focused. You can tell stories around it, how you've come to learn that you are these things through other people that you've either helped or served in some way. Okay. Yeah, so I see Courtney's popped the Q&A thing reminder there into the chat. So yeah, please do drop them in. And Courtney, if there's any that come up that you think would be relevant to jump in with, feel free to do that. We will have a little space in a minute before we conclude to deal with Q&A. However, if there's any that pop up that you think just can't wait, then do feel free to jump in with them. Now, we've done the identifying the value, looking at your mountain of value. We've acknowledged that it's hard to look at your own mountain, and so it takes the help of other people to look at your mountain with you, and you can help by looking at other people's mountains. That's the identifying your value. Then we've got the making it relevant. So we practice filling in that matrix for any given job where we've got the things that they're looking for across the top and the value that we have down the side, and we write in how one fits in with the other. But then we've got to actually present this to people, either on a Zoom call or face-to-face or whatever it might be. And so presenting your value is of critical importance. It's one thing finding it, it's another thing making it relevant. But then when it comes to actually delivering it to people, well, it could all fall down if you're not careful. It's 1999 and I'm in an interview room. Me, this is a true story. I'm in this interview room in Milton Keynes in England, and I'm being interviewed for the job. This job was a training manager job that actually turned out to be pre-sales as well, because I ended up knowing the product so well that the salespeople would come and get me, even though I was a training manager, to go through some of the things for different customers and prospects. Anyway, the interview is progressing well, and I take out the most minute laptop that was available at the time. It's called a Toshiba Libretto. Bear in mind that this is 25, 26 years ago. Laptops were not that popular, and little mini laptops, you know, not mobile phones, but little mini laptops were even less popular, because the thought that went through my head as I was preparing for this interview is, how can I really stand out? And so with a little bit of trepidation, I said at a neat point in the interview, listen, I've been thinking about how my skills and experience could apply to this job that you've got open. And also in looking at the products you have, I think I've perhaps spotted an opportunity for a training course, so as the training manager, that could be sold about this. And I've prepared a very small presentation. It'll only take about 5 minutes. Would you like to see it? Now, this took the interviewer back a little bit, but he said, yes, I would like to see it. And so I flipped open this little laptop, went through this very, very short presentation. And I think perhaps the technology impressed him as well as the initiative. But even if he'd said no, do you think I would have stood out in that guy's mind as one of the, perhaps the only candidate that said, I've been thinking about this and I've prepared a short presentation? I think the answer is yes. And let me tell you what he said at the end of the interview. His name was Chris, and he said to me, all of the interview training I've done tells me I should not tell you this, but I really like you. I want you to be part of the company, and I want you to come back for a second interview. I'm going to have to do it through the official channels. You're going to hear it from an agent, but just know that, we'd like you back. And so that was a lovely little success story. And it is the art of the unsolicited presentation. And that's the last thing I'd like to talk about tonight or this afternoon, is the art of the unsolicited presentation. And I'm aware that many selection processes, in fact, Tom and Ron were just talking about it, doing the demo and things like that. Many selection processes do include a presentation or a demo, and that's fine. If that is the case, so if you've been asked to deliver a presentation or a demo, then create an extra presentation. And of course, Zoom plays into this perfectly. So if it's been done over Zoom and you're already screen sharing to do the demo or the presentation, you can say, by the way, while I've got the screen, I'd just like to take 5 minutes to show you an extra presentation I've created that shows you how I will slot into your organization, or the value that I can bring, or whatever it might be. You choose the thing that suits you, that resonates with you and you believe will resonate with the people that you're talking to. So if you've not been asked for a presentation or a demo, then do one anyway. That's the third bullet point. So in the unlikely event that nobody's asked you to do a presentation, halfway through or at a convenient juncture, say, look, I've got this presentation I've created. Would you like to see it? Obviously introduce it a little bit better than that. Say, I've been thinking about, how I could contribute to your company, or, how I could increase sales, or whatever it might be. I will give you one massive tip. If you are going to offer a presentation, make sure you've actually done one. Don't bluff it. You've got to have one in your back pocket so that you can deliver that. But it will stand you out. It will stand you out head and shoulders above other people, because so many people have not got the initiative to do it, or they think of it and think it's a great idea, but don't go with it. And so they miss out. Okay. Now, those first 3 bullet points were about if you're looking for a job. However, if you're already in a role and you want to increase your visibility and your credibility, then one of the things that you can definitely do is, again, offer an unsolicited presentation. Let's pretend that you've noticed that there's a little bit of tension between the AEs and the SEs for whatever reason, but you've perceived it. You could have a word with your boss and you could say, look, it seems to me there's a little bit of bit of tension between the AE and the SE community. Now, if your boss says, no, I've got no idea what you're talking about, maybe you can drop that one and look for another opportunity. But if they say, yes, you're right, and actually it's been like that for the last 3 years, nobody seems to have done anything about it, but you're quite right, there is a problem. Now, if you step forward and say, look, I'd like to do a presentation about how we can work together better, or 5 things that salespeople should know about solutions engineers, or whatever it might be. But if you prepare that presentation, do a little bit of a lunch and learn, or at the team day, or whatever it is, get that presentation out there. Not only is it going to oil the wheels of your company, not only is it going to increase your credibility and visibility, but it's going to solve problems for people as well. And as Cliff has just said, solve a problem. If you can't find one, ask around. I feel exactly the same, Cliff, about making presentations. If nobody's asking me to make a presentation, I'm probably suggesting I make a presentation somewhere. I did it in another telecoms company in Huntsville, Alabama, many years ago. I noticed that not everybody seemed to understand exactly the nature of the product we were selling. And, and why should they, frankly, if they were handling goods or doing secretarial work or whatever it is, why would they want to know? Well, I just got the feeling it'd be nice for everybody to have an overview. So I volunteered to do a little lunch and learn overview about our products and how they fitted into the telephone system for people. And it made a huge difference. And of course, it did my credibility some good as well. Okay, let's move on. And right now is the time to talk about questions. So Courtney, if you've got any, we can deal with them now before we summarize and finish up.
I haven't seen any Q&A come in, but the chat is blowing up. So thank you for engaging in the chat, but no questions have come through yet.
Ah, okay. Well, yeah, the chat's been great. Cliff's been very prolific in there. I appreciate that, Cliff. And thank you everybody else as well. Salman and Sonia, all these people. Thank you for contributing. In that case, Courtney, I will feel I can carry on to the summary of all of this. So 3 things that I've talked to you about. Number 1 is identifying your value. And what we said is you are definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, standing on your own mountain of value. That's beyond question. However, it's just difficult to see your own mountain. It's so much easier to point over and see Tom's mountain of value, or Cliff's mountain of value, or Ron's mountain of value. It's so much easier to see other people's. And that's why you should ask for help, so that others can help point out your value. And as I said, there might be some surprises in there. So go through that exercise of identifying your value. And yes, feel free to catalog it in a document or a spreadsheet or however you want to capture it. As I also said right at the beginning, just as a bit of an aside, make sure that you capitalize on any love that comes your way by getting people to do a LinkedIn recommendation. I've found the best time is when people are expressing love and great gratitude for something that you've done for them. You can say, "Oh, thanks so much for your kind words. Would you mind just putting a couple of lines into a LinkedIn recommendation for me?" It's a great time to do that. So who are the others that can give you help with your mountain of value? Well, obviously colleagues, they'll see some of your strengths, friends as well, and even family can help you find your strengths and the different elements that go up, the different things that go to make up your mountain of value. So get those and catalog them. But the next step is crucially important as well. Always make it relevant for the particular role you're aiming at. So if it's a new business development role, things like quickly being able to establish and build rapport might be something. Teamwork might be something. Just make sure that you're only talking about the relevant parts of your mountain of value. You could even say, in my previous company, we all went through an exercise of looking at each other's mountains of value. And it strikes me that the most relevant three for this opportunity that we're discussing now are A, B, and C. And you could introduce it like that. So make sure that it's relevant. And remember that relevance is on a case-by-case basis. Now, thinking back to your CV, I've been handling this, that you've, in the understanding that you've got kind of a bit further down the recruitment process and you're shortlisted or you're actually face-to-face or on a Zoom call with people. However, you can do this in your CV and you can afford to be a little bit more broad. So if you're looking for pre-sales roles, you can put the parts of your mountain of value that generically apply to pre-sales roles. However, when you get to the interview, the face-to-face, whether it's Zoom or in person, that's the time to narrow things down and only talk about the most relevant parts of your mountain of value. So learn to match those parts with the specific requirements of a given role. And learn to speak about your value in the voice of other people that you've helped or served. That makes it sound a little bit less braggy. And of course, if it happens to be part of a LinkedIn recommendation, there's a bit of social proof. So if somebody asks you about a particular strength, you can say, yes, well, in a previous role, my manager was always really clear that he or she valued this particular thing that I did. Oh, and actually, they wrote me a LinkedIn recommendation about it as well that I can point you to. Then so much the better. Okay, then we talked about presenting your value, and I told you about the rare art of the unsolicited presentation. It's a magical thing. This has really opened doors for me. But by the way, that job that I got in 1999 was the last job I ever applied for. Every other opportunity that's come my way, whether it's been a job or a speaking opportunity, has been because people have seen me present somewhere. So whether it's presenting at a conference or presenting at an industry event or actually presenting to other companies in a sales situation, I've been sought out. And so I would encourage you all, as you watch this, to really double down on your presentation skills and get out there. We talked about the unsolicited presentation. You can do that when you're looking for a job. You can do it at work, but you can also do it outside of work. You can apply to speak at industry conferences and show some thought leadership. And this, of course, adds a stack to your credibility and your visibility too. And the more you do it, the better you get in general. So you get more feedback, you get to understand what people are looking for if you are presenting at conferences and things like that. So you can find situations when you're job hunting or whether you're in a role. It's been great talking to you. I've enjoyed spending time with you. If you want to go deeper, I do have a book that's available on Amazon. It's called Be the Nerd That's Heard, and it's got the Geek's Guide to Presenting. It's got some proven steps to help any geek or any technical specialist be better at their presentations. And you can see there that although I'm not currently available for weddings, funeral, or bar mitzvahs, there are other things I do too. Here's my email address and my LinkedIn profile. And really, it only remains for me to say that it's been a pleasure sharing with you about how to identify your own mountain of value, how to pick out the bits that are relevant for given roles, and how to present your value to others. It's been a pleasure to go through the practical steps you can take to do some of this. But, my friends, the real pleasure will come for you when you actually take action and do this stuff and watch your career rocket. Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness, David, give him some love in the chat. What a perfect way to close out the day. It really just put a bow on everything. It was fantastic, David. And those are some real things we can take and start working on. This whole day was full of actionable insights. This, in fact, closes out our second Career Navigator Summit. I can't believe we're already done with the day. Thank you to all our incredible speakers for bringing insights and energy and inspiration and support. All of that was palpable during this event. To all of you amazing community members, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for supporting each other. And of course, a huge shout out to our partners at Reprise for helping us bring this Career Navigator Summit to life in this community. Final reminders, replays will be available by the end of this week. If you want to keep the conversation going, head into our Slack. We've got about 20,000 people in our Slack community. Head in there, get some support, chat with each other. Again, from the bottom of our hearts here at PSC, thank you for being here. Thank you for a wonderful day. And David, thanks for taking us home with that session.
Well, thank you.
Until next time, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.